Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel. Now today we'll be taking a look at a game I think many people haven't even heard of until recently, and that's ZERO Sievert. We'll explore the game's premise, features, and ultimately I'll be aiming to help you decide on whether ZERO Sievert is worth the asking price of $18 US. Now if you find the video useful in that decision or just find it entertaining, consider dropping it a like to help the channel and subscribe for more videos just like this one. And lastly, it's important for me to mention that this video is not sponsored in any way. I was given a key for the game by the devs to give it a try, and I've chosen to give my honest opinions about it in this video to help others. So, first things first, what actually is ZERO Sievert? If you've ever played games like Escape from Tarkov, you'll be familiar with the formula behind it. Essentially, you are dropped into a post-apocalyptic Zakov, not to be confused with Tarkov, of course, filled with mutants, bandits, and much worse. Each time you drop into a map, you can choose what you take with you, and your goal is to complete missions, acquire loot, and extract from the area once you're ready to do so. Once you've extracted, you'll be able to wander around a bunker, which acts as a place to interact with several traders, grab missions, sell your loot, and work towards upgrades on several different workbenches that will help you progress through the game. Now, if you're thinking this sounds very similar to Escape from Tarkov, I'd say you are absolutely right, but ZERO Sievert doesn't strike me as a tacky clone at all. In fact, it brings to the table plenty of unique features that haven't been seen in games of its ilk. Take this for example. Every time you drop into a mission, it's going to be different to the last time you ran it. Each of the 5 currently available maps are procedurally generated, with key locations shifting around between each playthrough, including your extracts. There's 3 more maps on the way as well, so we do have something to look forward to there in the future. As for the actual atmosphere and design of the worlds, I've got to say, for a pixel art style, I've been pleasantly surprised by the immersive feeling of the world surrounding you as the player. There's villages, forests, industrial zones, camps, caves, so there's a lot to explore, and the design is done in such a way that I find myself genuinely looking forward to rummaging around new areas, whether it's to see what loot is available or just to explore the scenery. There are enough unique locations that present you with some loot rewards for clearing them that I'm always looking for the next one. So we've covered the basic premise of ZERO Sievert. Now let's go into the pros and cons and a bit of a dive into some of the features for the game. To start with, I wanted to cover the elephant in the room here, and that's the graphics. Now, I'm fully aware that the graphical style for ZERO Sievert doesn't appeal to everyone, and by now from the footage in this video, I'm sure many people have already decided, based on that it's not for them. I suppose why I'm bringing this up is to just acknowledge that fact firstly, but also to acknowledge that the style they do have is a unique one for the genre. When you take into account that this game is developed by a single person, the choice to go with their current graphical stylization makes a bit more sense. You'd be forgiven for assuming that the game, based on its graphics, is a light-hearted and perhaps even shallow version of similar games in the genre, but the fact of the matter is that ZERO Sievert actually comes with a pretty deep questline that can occupy you for hours. Having spoken to some players in my community that have spent in excess of 30 hours actively playing the game, they're still making their way through quests and aren't seeing any signs of it coming to a close. What ZERO Sievert does so well is staggering progression, meaning that you've got a couple of larger overarching goals that you could be working at for a good chunk of playtime to achieve larger awards like unlocking transport to other maps or upgrading one of your workstations at the bunker, but all the while you've still got side quests to keep you busy for additional loot, weapons, or money. You will always feel like you've got a goal to achieve going into each mission, and that for me is a massive plus. It keeps you coming back for more because you feel as though you are making progress with each successful extract. That said though, something I should also mention about ZERO Sievert is that it's incredibly unforgiving and you will die, perhaps multiple times before really getting the hang of it. If you like games that you can just sort of sink into and zone out for a while, take your time with it, and ultimately have a stress-free experience, ZERO Sievert likely isn't the game for you. It's challenging, it keeps you on the edge of your seat for extended periods, and you genuinely have to put concentration and effort into each run to make sure you succeed. Not necessarily a negative about the game, I know, but I feel like it's really important for anyone looking to purchase to understand that ZERO Sievert will not hold your hand, so you have to spend some time learning about the game and biting the dust for a bit before you can really get going. Any creature NPCs will immediately try to swarm you when alerted, whilst human NPCs will attempt to track you down when hiding and surround you when you're in cover. It is brutal, but what's nice is that the AI aren't stupid, which is incredibly important for a game that is entirely PvE based. There's no multiplayer in ZERO Sievert, so the AI needs to be challenging, and they've certainly hit the nail on the head there. There's a decent amount of enemy types too, which again, I'd say is important for a PvE title. I don't want to give away what all of those are, but yeah, plenty to be worrying about. Now, I couldn't make it through this video without talking about the weapons and customization that ZERO Sievert offers. I'm far from a firearms expert first and foremost, so if I pronounce stuff wrong, get calibers and measurements or terminology mixed up, well, I'm sorry. Anyway, the game itself offers a pretty large range of weapons to choose from, over 30 that I've seen so far, and the ability to actually swap parts or attachments around on these weapons is pretty impressive for a game of its nature. Foregrips, magazines, stocks, handguards, sights, muzzle attachments, whatever really. It's all available and changes the way your weapon will handle in a firefight. There's also a couple of different ammo types for each caliber. So for me, for example, I found myself using a PPSH when I first started with 7.62 by 25 FMJ rounds. Later, I was able to pick up hollow point rounds for increased damage and found a particular liking for the SV98 with armor piercing ammo for dealing with bandits or hunters. My SMG was much better suited to dealing with creatures that would close the distance quickly and try to get in melee range. My point here is that there are a range of tools available, some suited better to given situations than others. So if you're a fan of firearms, you'll likely enjoy that aspect of the game thanks to the diversity that's available here. If you're familiar in any way with the Stalker franchise, you'll already know what I'm talking about here almost immediately. But another prominent feature of ZERO Sievert is environmental hazards, like radiation or paranormal sights known as anomalies. These anomalies are scattered throughout the game and give you the chance to risk serious injury or death for a loot payoff. Again, I'm not going to spoil what all of these anomalies look like or what they do, but it's great to have an additional challenge than just shooting stuff in a game like this. Do you take the risk for a big payoff if you find one, or do you choose to hang on to the loot you've gathered and take the safe route? The choice is yours. Ultimately, for the asking price of ZERO Sievert, I'd confidently land on the side of yes, it's absolutely worth buying. The only caveat to this is that it's a brutal, unforgiving game, so I think there's likely some players out there that have had no idea what they were getting into, and as a result, didn't purchase what they were expecting. All in all though, if you relish a challenging environment, procedurally generated map elements, and moments of high adrenaline from acquiring that final item for a quest you've been going after for hours, this game is absolutely one that I would consider. It does a fantastic job of bringing across some of the best features from games like Stalker and Escape from Tarkov, whilst maintaining enough fresh mechanics and new features to really craft its own experience. Honestly, hats off to the developer. I've been having a blast with ZERO Sievert so far, and I hope that you do as well if you decide to go ahead. One last thing before you go though, let me know what you think in the comments about ZERO Sievert. Do you think it's worth the price? What do you enjoy or dislike about it? I'd be eager to hear your thoughts and generate some positive discussion. Special thank you to all of my patrons for their support for the channel. If you're interested in becoming one of those patrons, you can find a link down in the description, as well as a link to ZERO Sievert's Steam page if you want to go ahead and purchase the game. Thanks guys, and I will see you all in the next one.